And welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 141. I'm your host, Blaine Pudvang. I'm joined now by my co-host, Matt Smith.
Good evening.
Treg Wilson.
Good evening.
And our special guest, Matt Bedard AKA Scotian Canadian.
Yo, thanks for having me, guys.
Well, we've been trying for quite a while to get you here. I'm super happy to finally get you on.
I'm pumped to be here, and it's good to see you guys again. It's been a while.
Yeah, I think the last time we saw you was at Bubba Ray's having beers, and your wife wasn't pregnant yet.
Yeah, we had a fun night later that evening.
And now you guys have your third, Cole.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you saw the most recent video, but I did not name him after Cole Caulfield. She suggested it, and I wasn't going to say no because I knew who was in the Habs pipeline, and goes well with his middle name, which is Caulfield. So,
like, wow, what an interesting, different kind of name. I love it.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about women who don't watch hockey, and you can kind of slide those through every now and then.
Yeah. I was pretty pleased. She's somewhat knowledgeable. I thought she'd catch it, but no, it passed.
Pregnancy brain.
Yeah.
You should have caught on as soon as you went, that's a great name, honey. I fully support you with no argument.
Yeah.
So like, wait, something's going on here.
Yeah. This is a few months ago. I might even have pulled the, I'm not really sure if that's the one, but, and then eventually, oh yeah, I kind of like it.
It's grown on me for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations anyway. It's always great to have yet another addition to the family.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, that's our third now and our last, and it's been really cool to see the siblings kind of, getting to know each other, and even we just got through having the second, not that long ago. A year and a half passed quick especially with the lockdowns and COVID and all that stuff. So to be adding a third and going through the process again, it's quite exciting.
Yeah, I went a different route. I put about 8 years between all my kids, like between the first and the second, and the second and third.
Diaper breaks.
Daddy needed to recover.
Yeah, I'm on year 4 now of diapers. It's great.
Yeah, well, you've got that. Your kids are all going to be moving out around the same time. Meanwhile, I've got one living on her own with her own kid, and I'm coaching minor hockey. So there's a gap. Kind of like Treg, super granddad.
Yeah, I got 2 grandkids, one kid out on her own, one kid I wish was out on his own, and a 17-year-old who will soon be out on her own. So yeah, things are going good. And then I can bring the kids in, and then when I don't want them anymore, I can send them away. So grandparenting's great.
Yeah. It's the best.
Why are you crying? Stop crying. All right, go home. See you later.
And then there's Matt Smith scoring all kinds of bling, medals galore, because he's a freaking war hero.
That's right.
Cheers.
With
all right, so
humanitarian.
Yeah, we've done enough fluffing of our own show hosts. So let's just jump into it. Today, as we record, it's May 4th. There's the jokes, May the 4th be with you, and what on and so forth. But the news about Tom Wilson's punishment for being a total douchebag on the ice has come down. And Department of Player Safety has decided, fuck it, we don't give a shit. So here's $5,000. What do you guys think? Can he afford that? I mean, I don't know.
Do you want me to start? Because I'm not sure if I fall in line with the popular take on it. Maybe you guys should start. I don't want your viewers to hate me right off the bat.
Go ahead, you're the guest.
You're the guest. Give her.
Go ahead, man.
Okay.
Rant on.
Geez, where do I even start? I think there was an incident a couple weeks ago where I'm having a hard time remembering. I probably should have looked it up before coming on here, but Tom literally didn't do anything a couple weeks ago, and he was being treated as if he needed to be kicked out of the league. I wish I could remember what it was, but I think just because of his name now, just anything he does gets broken down and slowed down to a fraction of a second. Like they're looking at the I mean, now they're saying it's being compared to Bertuzzi, and they're saying he grabbed Panarin by the hair and pulled him down, and I'm
He
like,
did.
I'm not so sure I see that. Like what I would say to that is there's a common occurrence when there's scrums and when there's fights that you wrap your arm around the guy's head, and when you fall, or if you're going to fall, he doesn't hit his head. So to me, that's what it kind of looked like he might have been going to do there, and the two of them lose balance and they fall to the ice. They've got it. They're going frame by frame, and they're trying to make it seem like it was this violent act. Now, what I will say is the very sneaky choke with the stick on Buchnevich in the crease, and then the punch to the head, that's greasy. I feel like that is probably should have been suspension worthy considering his past history. But everything after that, and the issue with Panarin, I mean, it's an unfortunate incident that a superstar in the NHL goes down and now he's out for the rest of the season. But I don't see the whole hair pull thing, and I don't think he was purposely trying to slam a guy's head into the ice. That's just me. I don't see it.
I don't think he was trying to slam his head in the ice, but I do think that he was trying to just pull him down, make him look bad. And he did have his hand clutching hair. So yeah, his arm was in behind his head when he fell, which worked out okay because he didn't have his helmet on, but he did grab that hair. So that wasn't even part of the whole player review. It was just the Buchnevich issue, which was trash and probably a game, maybe. But
Yeah.
if I were on the ice on the other team, I would have had to step up and fight, because that's, I mean, I'm not much of a hockey player anymore, but that's what I used to do because I sucked. So I did that. But if I were on that team, on the Rangers, I would try to fight him. And if that didn't work out, then the very next game, you're throwing pucks in deep. You're taking out their goalie. You're going after one of their star players. There's a tit for tat that's going to have to come from this.
Oh, and there will. And I mean, Tom Wilson will answer the bell, no problem. He'll fight the whole team one by one if they want him to.
Not for him to fight. You went after one of our stars. Now we're going after one of yours.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
we'll have to see how that plays out. But I mean, I don't know. I'll keep going. I mean, like I said, and maybe I'm playing devil's advocate a bit here, and I very well could be wrong, but I just didn't see the hair pull. And I just and granted, I am a Tom Wilson fan, not necessarily a Tom Wilson fan alone, but I just like all the gritty players like Radko Gudas. I'd take him on our team. I'd take Tom Wilson any day. Matt Martin, just bring them all in. That's why I loved when we got Josh Anderson, because I knew that teams wouldn't be able to do what Wilson did to us, because we now have players that can stick up for themselves. Like and good on Panarin for jumping in the scrum in the first place, especially considering it was Tom Wilson in there. But yeah, I found the statement that the Rangers put out a bit dramatic. I mean, this is probably not where you thought this was going to go, but
No. That's what I want.
Someone's gotta, say the other side, especially considering how Twitter's going off right now. I fall
Yeah.
much more in line with guys like Witt and a lot of the NHL players who are coming out now and saying they'd love to have Tom on their team. I definitely think that the first bit is suspension worthy with Buchnevich there, but I just slowing a play down frame by frame and trying to say that it was an intentional and he should be kicked out of the league, I think it's a little unrealistic. Considering a couple weeks ago, like I said, he did something that was just literally nothing. And I wish I could go back and find the example, and he was getting, crapped on for that. It's almost the same thing. They see his name on the back of the jersey, and it's like, we need to find a reason to get him out of the league. Guys hate him, and I remember being a kid and absolutely loathing Brad Marchand, and now,
Still do.
he may be a Bruin, but I love him.
Yeah. I still like bags of dog shit on fire and throw him on his dock. He just lives right over here.
Your guys' turn. Tell me why I'm wrong and I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say about the Tom Wilson thing is with Panarin, I think he grabbed his hair. It looked like he grabbed his hair to me. But even after he got him down, the way that he picked him up and then slammed him back down 2 or 3 times while he was on the ice, that to me, I thought, okay, you already pulled him down. You already, Panarin's not a rough guy. He's not a fighter. He's not a whatever. There was no need for, while you were yelling at the referee, to keep slamming him down into the ice, right? Personally, the Panarin thing, I don't think it's a suspendable thing. I don't think it's whatever. The Buchnevich thing I thought was greasy and dirty. He pretty much came down on the back of his neck with his hockey stick, and then while he was lying there on the ice, punched him. Well, I mean, punched his helmet. He didn't really punch him. Let's be honest here. He punched his helmet, and I thought that was a bit greasy. I'm kind of like you, Matt. I think what he did should have been a suspension, like at least a game or something. But Tom Wilson is the type of player I would love to have on my team. I really would. I would not, if Montreal went out in the offseason and traded for Tom Wilson, that would not bother me in the least. Now I know there's some people out here and maybe on a certain other podcast that would probably hate it and go on about it, but I personally wouldn't. I wouldn't mind that. However, his actions, I think, in that game, I think were over the top. I don't think they were necessary on both players. We all know what type of player Tom Wilson is. He does that dirty stuff. He is that gritty player. That's why we love to hate him. And why I say love to hate him is we hate him when we're playing against him. But if he was in our team, we'd be defending everything he did. So, well, maybe not everything, but.
Well, and if he did that to one of our players, say a Suzuki or Toffoli, who's got long hair, I'd probably feel a little bit differently. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to hide behind that, but.
Yeah, but I just mean, I think his actions in that scrum were a bit over the top, a bit. And for a repeat offender, I thought at least a game for the Buchnevich thing. I don't think the Panarin thing is anything. Yes, he got hurt, but I don't think he did anything you don't normally see in any other scrum in the NHL. The way I look at it, if you want to get that shit out of there, then the referees and linesmen break up those scrums right away. Get in there and break it up right away.
Well, you could wait. You could wait for Department of Player Safety to say, okay, well, we're going to give you a game and that solves it. But let's be honest, you're not going to wait. You can't let that stuff slide. Yes, it should have been at least one game. One game, maybe two at the most, just because he's a repeat offender. But it's the Panarin interaction that I think is going to get the bigger response out of the Rangers. And that's why the Rangers put out their statement. But on the ice, like I said, a tit for tat, they're going to go after a capital star player in the next game. Guarantee it.
Are they with Tom Wilson on the ice, though?
Yep. Even Tom Wilson on the ice. They're going to do it during the game. They're going to go after a goalie. They're going to hit a guy from behind. They're going to call up some goon from Hartford, something. They're going to do something.
Is that okay?
No, what he did wasn't okay. The response won't be okay, but that's the unwritten code. You can't disrespect another player the way he did and not get something in return. And this is what's going to happen.
This is when the Department of Player Safety got to do their job to stop that from happening.
And they did not.
And I think, and I'll be honest, I think George Peros is doing a shitty job as head of the Department of Players.
It's not George Peros. George Peros follows the commands he's given from above. It's Colin Campbell.
All right. Well, whoever's running it, I think it's a terrible job. I think we all know that from the hits to the head that we've seen this year, especially, I mean, as Montreal fans, let's just look at the three on Montreal that kind of went unpunished. The one on Kotkaniemi, the one on Armia, and who else? There was one on
Kotkaniemi again.
Kotkaniemi again, Calgary. Yeah. And nothing, absolutely nothing, right? And you look at there was one with Chara against Washington there earlier in the season, and nothing. And I think that's where it comes down to, like, player safety got to do their job. And if they do their job, then the players on the ice don't have to resort to this 1960s, 1970s Sean Abel in the movie The Rocket type scenarios.
Now, I think what's going to happen, though, is the Rangers are going to end up with a bigger fine than Tom Wilson did with their comment that they put out on Twitter. I think they're going to end up with a much larger fine than Tom Wilson's.
They probably will. And I mean, I agree with you guys. Like, I don't think the Department of Player Safety is pulling their weight whatsoever. I mean, what's the harm in suspending Tom Wilson? Even if you give him 5, what's the harm in it? We're at the end of the season. They're making the playoffs. I mean, like, why wouldn't you want to, Panarin's one of the best players in the league, regardless if I think that, what happened with Panarin there was an accident or, on purpose or not. There really was no harm in giving him games, especially considering what he did just before that to Buchnevich. So whoever it is, George Peros or Colin Campbell, who, they're being consistent, but just in the wrong way.
Yeah, consistently not calling anything or not giving out anything for anything.
Yeah.
But, I mean, look at look at McDavid.
Nothing
He throws
like
elbows
Bertuzzi.
like crazy, and
No,
he gets nothing.
God, no. It's not like Bertuzzi at all.
No,
it's nowhere near that.
No,
Nowhere near that.
No.
Trust me, I know Todd well.
Sorry, Treg, I cut you off. McDavid and the elbows. Yeah,
I was just saying, look at McDavid with the elbows. Like, he throws about 8 elbows a game, right?
It's okay. He's a superstar.
But that's my point. One of these days, he's going to throw an elbow that, is going to hurt someone or take someone's head off. And guess what? Nothing's going to happen to him. Why? Because he's Connor McDavid. And I'm not saying Tom Wilson get anything because he's Tom Wilson. Usually it's the other way around for guys like Tom Wilson. But they got to call something. Matt, what do you got to say? You're sitting there all quiet and drinking your beer.
I'm just enjoying the beer. It's my first. I'm off as of today, right? So I'm just having a great time over here. So we brought up the statement a few times. So I actually have the statement here. I might as well just read it off really quick. So statement from the Rangers. New York Rangers are extremely disappointed that Capitals forward Tom Wilson was not suspended for his horrifying act of violence last night at Madison Square Garden. Wilson is a repeat offender with a long history of these type of acts, and we find it shocking that the NHL and their Department of Player Safety failed to take the appropriate action to suspend him indefinitely. Wilson's dangerous and reckless actions caused an injury to Artemi Panarin that will prevent him from playing a game again this season. We view this as a dereliction of duty by NHL head of player safety George Peros and believe he is unfit to continue his current role. So that was the statement. And my thoughts on the whole situation, I'm kind of in line with Matt. I think that he's done much worse things than this, right? He was suspended 20 games for his hit on, was it Oscar Sundqvist? Then he didn't get suspended again until this year, where he hit Carlo, and that was in March, and he missed 7 games. So he has had a lengthy suspension already this season. I think, as you guys said, I think the Buchnevich thing was a lot worse than the Panarin incident. Obviously, the Panarin incident's only going to be brought up because he is a superstar player, and it would be the same way if it was any other superstar player. Obviously, you don't like seeing guys get hurt. There was a big scrum, but I don't think it's warranted the attention that it's getting right now, and I think it's more it's the name. It's Tom Wilson's name, and a suspension, a few games for what he did. Like I said, it was greasy what he did to Buchnevich in front of the net. I think we'd leave it at that. He's going to be a guy that, teams, the Rangers are going to go after him next time they play. Other teams might go after him now for it. Who knows? But as Matt alluded to, he's a guy he'll take on the whole team if he has to.
Oh, guaranteed.
Yeah, and like aesthetically, the Panarin thing looked bad. I just don't see the intent there, and I think a lot of people, not specifically to this Tom Wilson incident, but there's a lot of people, and I'm not trying to generalize, that just, I think we're forgetting that even without players like Tom Wilson who play on the line, sometimes cross it, even without those guys, hockey's still a really fucking dangerous sport.
Absolutely.
And unfortunate things happen. And I think what happened to Panarin personally was just an unfortunate incident, and I just don't see the intent. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think it would ever happen in Montreal because we have Paul Byron. Paul Byron will get himself suspended fighting that shit off. Guaranteed.
I would, but
just look what he's done in the past.
Heart of a lion.
All right. I think we've covered enough Tom Wilson shenanigans for now.
Us Wilsons get a bad rap. That's all I'm saying.
Well, the one thing I'll say before we move on is that I do agree that more than likely the the Rangers are going to receive some sort of fine from this.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And to tie the Habs into this, when the whole situation, remember when the ref told Gallagher to go fuck himself because after he got cross-checked in the neck a couple times. Julian got a $10,000 fine for that for speaking out against the ref. So
yeah, but that was a bit more legitimate than what the Rangers are doing here.
I don't know. The
Personally,
Rangers
I
are a
think-
powerhouse
Rangers-
cash franchise, right?
right,
So
most
They
expensive.
are, but I mean, Julian was protecting his player from obvious and blatant
That's true.
bad refereeing.
Yeah.
Right. And you literally seen the ref tell a player to go fuck himself because the player was saying, "Man, why didn't you call that?"
Yeah.
wasn't that Tim Peel?
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
Rangers playing to the crowd a little bit, I think, with this statement because they see everyone fired up about it.
It was a bit melodramatic.
It worked. It
You got
Dereliction
Treg
of
going.
duty.
I know, that's perfect. I love that.
I agree, but like, geez,
Next time I write somebody a 5B, that's what I'm going to say.
All right, so we'll move on to the misquoting of Josh Anderson. So Josh Anderson, in an interview just before the Toronto game, where the Canadians apparently stole the game illegally away from the dynasty powerhouse juggernaut Leafs.
That's
just
not what
before that
TSN
game.
said earlier, though.
Oh, yeah. He was asked about the differences between defending Connor McDavid and defending Austin Matthews. And he said, they are two different players. McDavid has so much speed and skill, and his hockey sense is off the charts. And Matthews, like I said, he scores every game. So you got to know where he is on the ice. It seems that Marner usually likes to find him. He's pretty good at that. From there, some I'm not even going to name this guy, but some media member out of Toronto said, according to Josh Anderson, the big difference between playing against McDavid versus Matthews is Matthews has Marner on his line. So he's just trying to, you mentioned it. You're playing to the crowd. The Rangers were playing to the crowd. This guy was playing to the Homer Leaf crowd.
He knew the response he was going to get from that.
Yeah.
Like, because people are going to read that and be like, what the fuck? He's saying Matthews isn't good without Marner. Like, come on. Like, I think everyone knows that Matthews is one of the best players in the league, top 3. I mean, it's just, I don't know. And it's just typical Toronto media stuff. And
if you're not filleting Matthews all the time, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Clicked on the guy's name. I thought he wrote for editor in Leaf or something, and then I was like, "Oh, this guy's actually legitimate. What's going on, right?" So, I don't know. My 2 cents on it.
According to editor in Leaf.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
Okay. Yeah, my 2 cents is they're just trying to fire the crowd up, just like editor, just like it was clickbait. That's all it was. Clickbait, get responses.
And when you look at the full context of it, what Josh Anderson said is a very objective, honest, and realistic take on Matthews and Marner as 2 great players that happen to play together.
Editor and Leaf. Here's the thing, and editor and Leaf's part of it, and I don't know if you have. Anyway, Toronto Matthews is a great player. I'm sorry, he is, but McDavid's a better player, and Toronto doesn't like the fact that Matthews is not the greatest player in the NHL right now. Let's be honest. Matthews doesn't even lead his team in scoring. It's Marner.
In points.
Yeah. Matthews leads in goals. He leads the entire league. He's going to win the Rocket Richard. He's probably going to get 40 goals in a 50-game schedule, and good for him. He deserves it. He's a great player. He can score goals from anywhere.
Because Matthews gets passes from Marner.
You think that question though? Do you think that would happen playing all teams this year?
No.
Neither do I.
I think if we had an 82-game schedule, yes, I think Matthews can score 40, maybe 50 goals. Well, but I don't think he would get 40 goals in 50 games.
I think he would have had a 50-goal season had they had an 82-game schedule.
Yeah. And I also don't think Connor McDavid would be on a 162-point pace if we were playing all teams in an 82-game schedule.
Yeah.
And you have to look at that too. Like, I mean, there's a lot of on-pace records going to happen this season, and we're getting into a different topic now, but
Tyler Toffoli.
Tyler
Yeah,
Toffoli.
yeah.
Tyler Toffoli would never be a 40 goal scorer in a regular NHL.
He's only got 10
30
goals
maybe.
less. 10 goals less than
30
Matthews.
maybe.
Matthews is getting paid almost $12 million, and the difference between him and Toffoli is $8 million. So you got $8 million for a 10-goal scorer. Way to go, Toronto.
I would never put Toffoli in the same conversation as Matthews. I see what you're doing there.
Just
though.
did it. If you take away those 10 goals, all he is Toffoli.
I mean, and I get a look at the Toronto too. The Toronto media is trying to justify Matthews winning a Hart Trophy,
And he's not.
Yeah,
and he's not.
He's
But
not.
they're trying to justify it because, I mean, is he in the Hart race? Yeah, he'll probably be one of the three in there, but it's hands down going to McDavid. I don't even know why you have to pick anything. And going to Eder and Leaf, he was suggesting if you take away the 10 games where, what was it, Matthews' hand was hurt, he'd be leading the league. He'd have 50 goals, or I don't know what he was.
As soon as he started not scoring goals, which wasn't very often this season, they reached out and they were like, "Oh, it's his hand hurts." It's like, well, we don't,
Okay.
we didn't need that story. Maybe you just
We don't
having
care. No one cares.
yeah, no one gives a shit.
I think I see it. There's an excuse here. Oh, hold on. I'm reaching.
Yeah, exactly.
There it is.
Like, we
There's
know the
always
guy's a
something
goal
there.
scorer. We know he's a good player. Like, players go through slumps. It is what it is.
You know
Even
who's-
even the good ones have their bad days. It is what it is. You don't need the oh well, we think that maybe when he was shaving, maybe his arm let go. Like, we don't need to know all this shit. Like, he's bullshit.
He
It's
uses
just
Cottonelle toilet paper. That's all
Yeah.
you need to know.
so.
Now, what do you
Matthews
think?
goes through slumps every year too, and I wouldn't be surprised to see another one kick up in a few weeks.
Well, it usually
That'd be a
does.
real shame.
It
It's all
usually
good.
does at that
He'll
time
put
of
up
year.
6 points in the playoffs all in one game. Everyone will think that he's so incredible. And then
Exactly,
he'll
Matt. You
do
took
he'll
the
do
words
nothing
out of
for
my
the
mouth.
rest, right? So
When I sit there and say Matthews is a good playoff performer, and they yell, "He's a point per game." Out of the 7 games he played, he scored in 2 of them.
Yeah.
He just happened to score 3 in one and 4 in the other. Or last year, I think last year was the only season where he was a point per game in the playoffs. And the 5 games
That wasn't the playoffs, though.
well, the play-ins.
They
He had
didn't make
7
the playoffs.
He had
Toronto was
7
not a
points in
playoff team
5
last
games.
year.
He had 7 points in 5 games, but he scored 6 of them in 2.
And God forbid you point that out to Leafs fans. I mean, it's just a fact.
But
By
I
God.
said that, and everyone's like, "Whoa, whoa! Oh, you're expecting him to score every game?" Yes, I am. In the playoffs, I expect Matthews to score every game. Sorry, but I do. Just like I expect Carey Price to win every game. Just like I expect, Connor McDavid to score every game, because that's what they're there for. That's why they're a superstar, right? Sidney Crosby scored almost every game in the playoffs going into when they win their Stanley Cup or any playoff race he plays. Sidney Crosby puts the effort in and gets the points. These
Nate
guys
McKinnon.
have to as well. Nate McKinnon does. I'm
Even
sorry, but
Brad
if you're a great
Marchand.
player, Brad,
It's hard to
I'm
say.
taking
Marchand.
McKinnon all day over McDavid if I'm building a team, by the way.
who? Marchand or McKinnon?
McKinnon. I'm
I
taking
would take McKinnon over everybody.
every fucking day. See
We're
him
we're building a
fighting
Cole Harbor
the other
team
night?
now.
We're gonna put Joey DePenta on defense. The first guy to bring the Stanley Cup to Cole Harbor,
That's right.
Joey DePenta.
Now, we've been talking about this whole misquoting. Let's move on to the game, the actual game, the Canadians, the Leafs. The Habs were supposed to, they came in as underdogs, huge underdogs. I mean, they, played, this is their 3rd game in 4 nights. They just had an overtime game against Winnipeg, 2 back-to-back comeback wins. And then they're playing against the juggernaut, cannot be defeated, go 16-0 for the Stanley Cup Maple Leafs.
When they lose, it's because they didn't play well, Maple Leafs.
That's right. They handed the game to the Habs because they felt bad for them.
It was I'm going to sit in front of the podium because I'm Jack Campbell and blame myself when I actually played a good game, Leafs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done it every
Yeah.
time. He did it and I brought this up a couple shows ago. Every time he's lost now, and like the first time he lost was against the Canadians. and he got beat on some really good shots that other goalies wouldn't have stopped either. And he gets in front of the camera and he's like, I let the team down. It's like, no, you didn't. And it was the same thing this time.
I thought Campbell was one of the stars of the game last night. That save he made on Anderson there with his
leg,
with
yeah,
his
with his foot or
pad,
whatever,
with his
yeah,
left leg.
yeah.
Well, I thought it was an amazing save. I really love that save he made on Cole Caulfield. Oh wait, he didn't make that save on Cole Caulfield in overtime.
Maybe that's what he was talking about.
Yeah, you missed that.
Oh no, we're gonna get to overtime here in a minute, but let's just talk about the the 60 minutes of regulation for now. The Canadians in the last 3 games have been night and day different from the Canadians we saw in April.
You can go back 4 games to the first Toronto game. I thought they played well in that first Toronto game, even though they lost 4-1.
They made too many mistakes in that one.
Right. Yeah, and Toronto capitalized on every chance they got.
Oh, absolutely. When you got star power like that, guaranteed they're going to bury it. But yeah, the Canadians they're skating better. They're moving the puck a little bit quicker. Do you now I'm going to go to our special guest Matt. Do you feel like they're just finally getting in the groove, or do you feel like because some of the older guys who are out hurt have opened the door for the young guys? Like what do you think is the main reason behind this?
That's a good question, and I think there's you know, I think you can see it both ways. I know Shea Weber being out and, you know, Romanov getting a chance to quarterback a power play has been a blessing. Would they have made that decision if Shea Weber was healthy? I mean, they hadn't to that point. So you have to think they would have just kept doing the same thing. I would hope that now they've seen how the power play can operate without him, that they might rethink how they're assigning Shea Weber's minutes, because I mean, I still think Shea Weber, when healthy, especially, is a massive part of this team. I think the coaches could do a bit better of a job, you know, putting him in roles to succeed where he can help the team a little bit more than he has lately. Or, you know, maybe it was because of his injury that he was struggling, but at the same time, I have to agree with what a lot of people say is that he's just not that dynamic on the power play. He's a shot option, basically. He's half decent at keeping the puck in at the blue line. But other than that, I mean, his passes are hard to receive, and he's not, you know, doing things that are, you know, creative and done by the younger guys in the NHL these days. Could he have a minimal role on the power play still? Sure. Could he not play the power play at all? Sure. I mean, he could still help them out in different ways. I don't think the team is better without him. I don't think they're better without Gallagher or Drouin or Tatar or, you know, whoever else. But it has been nice to see these guys get chances, and I hope they've shown the coaches enough for them to keep some of these minutes that they've really, in my opinion, earned throughout the season. You look at a guy like Jake Evans. I mean, he was scratched for Eric Stahl, and I never understood that whatsoever. Granted, Stahl might have needed a little time to adjust to a new team, but even still, I think Jake Evans is the better center at this point in their careers. But yeah, I mean, I like how they're playing. I missed the first 2 games being in the hospital for the birth of Cole, but when I came out and watched the highlights, I'm like, what is this team that I'm watching here? Like, it's just the transition was unbelievably different from the games prior to that. I mean, maybe we got a little bit too used to watching them play the Calgary Flames, who just make every game boring as fuck. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I definitely agree on your Flames comment. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, Trey, you got something there, don't you?
No, I was just going to say.
Okay, never mind. Matt?
Well, it's like I say, if you go back to the 4-1 loss to the Leafs, I thought the Canes were the better team in that game. I think they've been using, and we've talked about it on the show, they're using the defense to drive the offenses. And that's what they were doing at the first of the year. And now they're back to that at this point in the year. I think we're seeing more of a Dom Ducharme style hockey than what we were seeing before. I agree with you, everything you say about Shea Weber. Shea Weber is at the stage in his career where he got to be still a top 4 defenseman, just not on the top line or the top power play. I don't mind him on a second power play unit. The shot is still valuable. The shot's still going to go in the net. You know what I mean? Like he can still, there's a reason he has 100 and some odd power play goals. I just don't think it's everyone knows it's coming when he's on the ice. That's the problem with the power play with Shea Weber on the ice. Everyone now, Blaine brought up a good idea probably a month ago. Use him as a decoy. Have him out there, use him as a decoy. Everyone's going to think he's going to shoot and let the other guys. But it doesn't work with the younger players. Since with Romanov on there and Suzuki and Toffoli, now I know a lot of people want Caulfield on that top power play unit, but why change it out when it's working? That unit as it is right now is working. I get everyone wants to see Caulfield with that big one-timer at the OV spot, which he wasn't playing on, by the way, in the Leafs game. He was on the other side. Sure, that's great, but right now that's Suzuki, Toffoli, Romanov. I think Perry's on that. That's working. They're scoring. And it's all Suzuki. If you ask me, Suzuki's the real quarterback of that power play. He's leading the charge in that power play, and rightfully so. And Blaine, I think you're right. I think the youth movement's coming along. They're picking up the game, and Suzuki said it. We gotta play at the right time. We gotta bring our game at the right times, and they're bringing it. So I would go with, it's going to be a hard decision for Dom to make when these guys, day-to-day guys, come back like Byron and Tatar. And I don't think you're going to see Drouin or Gallagher back before the playoffs. You may not see Drouin back again, but it'll be a hard decision to see where they slot in and how they do, especially in the Ottawa game with Caulfield on the top line, to see how he does with Anderson and Danault.
Yeah, because in practice he's slotted on that top line right now. Yeah. Caulfield is. And
I like that line of Lehkonen, Kotkaniemi, and Evans too. They're that third line. That I think that's going to be. I like Evans. I agree with you too, Matt. He was hot when they took him out, and I was like, "Why are you taking?" And then Stahl scored the overtime, so everyone got kind of, rose-colored glasses over that. And then the real Stahl came out, and you're like, "Jesus, like this guy's an anchor." And
he played a good game that first game too, in general.
Yeah.
So to have a good game and then score the OT winner, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah. But after that, it was questionable.
No, in the last couple games,
line's been good.
Yeah.
But the last couple games, Stahl has been okay. He's looked okay. He's done his job properly. What you expect of him, he's done that. Evans brings that extra dimension. He's got that speed. He's got that drive. It's that youthful exuberance that Evans is just everywhere. And he's got that chemistry going with Caulfield. You watch them on the ice. Caulfield's constantly getting open, and Evans is always trying to get him that puck. So it seems to be working there. Now, the whole reason Stahl wasn't sat, it's a cap reason. They didn't have enough cap to bring someone up, and you can't just send Stahl down to the taxi squad because then the entire cap counts, because right now they got 50% down in Buffalo. So spending to the cap, and then all the shifts, the taxi squad movement there after the deadline, that's really handcuffed the Canadians.
Yeah, I mean, is Drouin doing his old coach a favor, taking a little couple weeks off? Maybe not.
Maybe.
I'm trying not to. Don't want to make any assumptions, but if Drouin returns to for the playoffs, that'd be something else. I'm not expecting it at this point, and all the best to him. I've criticized him, but you're in the NHL, you deserve some criticism. But at the same time, I've also been a huge supporter of him as well, and been by his side from the moment he's been with us till this season as well. So, but I think there's something to be said too about Ducharme. It was hard to see all the shit he was taking, as a head coach, and he's not going to be back next season and whatever. So I'm glad to see the tides turning a little bit. And it's funny to see him continually switching the lines up. But he said something early in the season, or early when he took over, is that he wants everyone on the team to have chemistry with each other. And he hasn't really swayed from that. Maybe it's hurt them a little bit here and there to this point, but I think you're seeing it kind of come together a little bit here and there, especially on their power play. Like, we're not seeing guys static and stuck in the same spot. They're playing in all different areas. They're moving around a little bit better. So I think the chemistry is coming along. So hopefully it continues that way. And all these line juggling, all these line changes makes it easier for these guys to play together when it really matters. And you have to make adjustments on the fly in the playoffs.
That is the hope. If that's his plan the whole time, that's he's playing 4D chess while we're all playing checkers. Like which I'm hoping is true. I really do.
Because I do agree with Treg. Like, it seems more like Dom Ducharme hockey lately. Like, with
Yeah.
the transitions being this way, he's, and then they said it early on when he took over, as he's really trying to let guys be creative offensively. And that's the Dom Ducharme I know.
Yeah.
That's how he was here in Halifax.
Yeah. I wrote an article saying he needs a deep playoff run to keep his job. I don't think he does now. Like, my mind has kind of changed on that since I wrote that article. Mainly being is he never got a chance to have 2, 3, 4 practices in a row with the team. Like, it's sort of like, all right, let's have a practice, and then we got to work on this one thing, and then a game. All right, we worked on that one thing last practice. Let's work on this thing. Instead of having a practice where they work on this, next practice they work on that, next practice they work on that. Oh, we got a game. Okay, play the game. All right, this is what we screwed up on. Now let's have some practice on that. He hasn't really had that chance to have a full. So you'll probably see him back next year. I'm up in the air. I don't care if we can bring him back or not. I'll be honest with you. I'm okay, depending on who they bring in. If they don't bring him back, but if they bring him back, I'm good with that too. I think.
Well, I'm a big Bergevin supporter, and I'm in the same boat at this point. I don't care whether or not they bring him back. I mean, I probably prefer, because I do have faith in what Bergevin does in terms of management style. But at this point, whether if they happen to get rid of them, then it's hard to.
But I will say this: if they're going to lose Bouchard, I'd rather them keep Bouchard and lose Ducharme.
Right.
Personally.
All right. So we'll move on to the overtime then. Apparently the Canadians cheated and came up with a coaching plan in overtime where they just held on to the puck. I mean, what the fuck? I cannot believe people are bitching about that.
You know what? It might not be the most exciting thing, but you know what? The strategy so far has worked. It's got Caulfield 2 overtime winning goals, and the fact that some of the media, or not even the media, it's mostly fans, but I'm sure if I looked it up, I could find some in the media.
There's some in the media
that are actually saying that in overtime they should have a shot clock put in, which is absolutely ridiculous. How many times have we seen just a power play where it's like pass the puck, pass the puck, pass the puck, and God forbid, like, we don't have fans in the audience to yell "shoot the fucking puck," anymore, right? So you gotta provide me at home yelling that as loud as I can. But
I say we go one step further. Forget overtime and just have this thing where you have a breakaway challenge. I don't know. It sounds gimmicky, like it
sounds like a skills competition,
like a shootout.
Yeah. But it's ridiculous what they're talking about now. And you know what? They're just trying to put a Band-Aid over the fact that a depleted Canadiens roster beat the Leafs. That's all it is. And especially the fact that the Leafs had a 2-1-0, didn't get a shot, and then the person that broke a lot, if not all, of Matthews' goal-scoring records scored the OT winner. That's the real story.
They had a $23 million 2-0 breakaway.
Yeah. Didn't get a shot.
Well, another guy suggested that they have like a red line be like half court in basketball, where in overtime you can't go back. If you go back on it, you lose the puck.
Lord.
You have to give the puck up.
You know what I think they should do is, when they start overtime, all the players on the bench should take their skates off and they should play the game without skates. That's what I think. Yeah. No, when are we going to stop adjusting how the game's played? I mean, I think the sport is perfect the way it is.
Yeah.
I mean, 3-on-3 in general was a massive change to how the game is played. And I actually agree with it. It ends games quicker. It's very exciting for the fans. But at some point, we have to just accept it for what it is. And that's why I love playoff hockey. It's 5-on-5 until somebody wins. And it's just, I'm sick and tired of the Leafs fan base thinking they should be gifted everything. I mean, they got lucky with getting Matthews, and congrats. Good.
It's not really being lucky. It's just, let's not play our good players and let's play a bunch of bums from the AHL, and then we'll lose games intentionally.
But winning the draft lottery, it came down to one ball dropping their way. Had the ball not dropped their way, the only other team that had a chance of winning on that last ball was the Canadiens. So It was
Can you
it was
imagine?
he was either going to be Toronto or Montreal Canadian.
Yeah.
And just
And ever
think,
since then, it's
just
been
think,
the
they almost got Lafreniere as well.
oh, could
They
you
almost
imagine?
did,
Yeah, I
and
remember
then
seeing that almost bounced up.
Yeah.
Like, fuck. But ever since then, it's like they expect to just have everything given to them.
That's right.
And I don't get it from that fan base. And I think if Leafs fans are listening to this, they're not going to like it too much. But I think the two fan bases between the Habs and the Leafs are almost polar opposites. And I think a big reason for that is all of us have witnessed lots of playoff hockey. I'm talking about Habs fans. We've witnessed a lot of playoff hockey through our lifetimes.
It definitely
so we
wasn't
know
Leaf
how
fans.
hard it is to get through. And we know that even if you're good, you may not get through. So, and in terms of the Leafs, they just don't know what it's like. And they think that you're just supposed to like build a great team and all of a sudden here's your Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And that's just not how it goes.
And I'll even spin that the other way. Like there's been years that the Canadians you're not going to do a thing. Like remember when they beat Washington and Pittsburgh back to back. Nobody saw that come.
Yeah.
Right.
I did.
So
No, I didn't.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
I
I mean,
agree
right
with you
now-
100%. I agree 100% with you.
But you're right
Well,
about the
I'm
fan
I'm
base.
telling you right now too, like, sorry, Trey, go ahead.
I was just saying the fan base. In Montreal, all our players are shit, and every prospect we have is going to be a dud. Whereas in Toronto, no matter who's on the team, it's the greatest player that ever played the game.
That's right.
Oh, we picked up Joe Thornton at 47 years old. He's going to be awesome. No, but okay, and
Nick Robertson.
yeah, all their prospects are the best. Sandin's the best defenseman coming in. Nick Robertson. And Montreal, we're the exact opposite. Oh, we got that guy. Yeah, he'll probably suck for us, even though he had like 500-point seasons. And then when he only gets an 80-point season, he's the worst player in the history of the Montreal Canadiens. And that's just the way our fan base, and the reason being, and I'll tell you why this is. Toronto for so long never won anything. Forever. Harold Ballard years. So anytime they get anyone with a little bit of whatever, it's like Christmas. For us, we won so much right up until 93 that now that we're not winning anything or getting anything, it's just all trash.
Yeah.
And that's
it's
what
like when Galchenyuk went to the team. It's like, Montreal fails at their development in Galchenyuk and Leafs turn him to a superstar and all this stuff. And you're just like,
He's
shut
on
up.
pace for 22 points.
Right. So
over an 82 game schedule.
So back to the Leafs. I've never seen a more smug yet
Faceless.
Insecure. The most
Yes.
smug yet insecure fan base I have ever seen in any sport. They are so smug, like you mentioned. Everybody's the greatest. Oh, we won a game. Oh, great Papon. And then, and they do it because it's based on some kind of insecurity. They have an inferiority complex for some reason. You have possibly the best Maple Leafs team they've put together in 30 years. Yet you're so goddamn insecure. You're bitching and moaning about a fucking overtime that you lost. Just get over it. It's just one game. You lost an overtime game. It's okay. And if you were so bored that the Canadians were cycling around in the neutral zone, why don't you bitch and moan about your players hanging out in their own defensive zone, waiting, not doing a thing?
Not forechecking, not attacking that little
Just sit there.
spinner.
or not call out Nylander for, going after Petrie and leaving Caulfield wide open to come in and score.
I mean, you saw it coming too.
Oh,
Caulfield
absolutely.
jumps the boards. And,
Oh yeah.
this is a goal.
Two guys went this way and this whole side was open.
Yeah.
I blame, to be honest with you, I blame the Hockey News for the Toronto because of their cover when they said it's not about how many. It's not about when, it's about how many.
Yeah.
Once they got Tavares, and it all went to shit from there.
That was the most ridiculous shit. That is exactly where I think my thought of, they think it's just a gift. Once you, get a certain set of guys, you're going to get there. But it's not that easy. And like I would say, and I have no problem saying that, like you guys said, this is the best Toronto Maple Leafs team we've seen in decades. They can actually defend now. They've got great goaltending. Tons of goal scoring. I'm not super high on the depth of their, forward core and their ability to play team defense in terms of their, group of top 12 forwards. But other than that, I mean, they're a powerhouse team, and they're showing that in the regular season like they always do. Now, that being said, I definitely think if the Habs face them in the playoffs, they could beat them. But if they don't, like, we're not at the stage. The Habs aren't.
I think Winnipeg could beat Toronto as well.
Yeah, and the Habs aren't in their stage of their build where, I mean, it's not the end of the world if we lose to them. I mean, it would suck having to fucking deal with their fans.
Could you imagine Twitter? Could you imagine?
It would be brutal. But realistically, it's not the end of the world for us. If we beat them, though, and that would be a very tall task. I think they're capable of it, but it would be an insanely tall task and an impressive task if they complete it. But if we do and the Leafs lose, that is catastrophe for the Leafs, like fucking catastrophe. Like, because the question marks that are facing this franchise moving forward, with Anderson possibly leaving, you got to re-sign Hyman and Campbell or Anderson or whatever. There's a lot of things going on there, and Matthews only got a couple more years left in his deal before he can go wherever the fuck he wants. So, I mean, as much as the Leafs are better in the regular season than us right now, I mean, I'll take it, because I think the long-term outlook for the Habs is looking a lot better. I
can't wait to see Matthews just threading the needle to Phil Kessel.
Yeah.
I said on Twitter today, Toronto's windows now. If Toronto doesn't win within the next 2 seasons, they're not winning.
Yeah.
Because in 3 seasons from this season, they lose everyone but Tavares and Riley. Basically, between now and that 3rd year, everyone but Tavares and Riley are free agents. Well, I'm not saying they're going to lose them, but they're free agents. And
have we heard anything about Foligno? Because he got hurt. Yes, he got hurt.
From what I've heard, and I've got some inside sources here, so this is an exclusive for Habs Unfiltered. It's nothing serious right now. There's swelling, and he's going to have to get an MRI, but the expectation is he'll be back.
Okay.
But if he doesn't come back, that's a 1st-round pick they spent to get some grit. Now, I love Nick. Nick's a great player, and he's exactly what they needed in Toronto. And if he's unavailable in the playoffs, that's a huge loss.
Mm-hmm.
That's bigger than losing Matthews, in my opinion.
Especially when you paid what you paid, and they've consistently been chucking around 1st-round picks like they're nothing. That's going to bite them in the ass in the long term. It's
gonna be like what happened to Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh right now is playing good hockey, but their farm system is
gone.
Bottom tier of the league.
Now, to bring it back to the Habs.
Thank you.
Yes. You look at how long it took Toronto to get to where they are right now. They haven't even won a playoff series, and it's taken almost 10 years of top 10 picks and losing. And slowly building up, winning a little bit, spending big money on free agents. Almost 10 years they have not won a playoff series. Meanwhile, people are all over the Canadiens because they're in year 4. This is the 4th season of this retool. The Habs have actually won a series during this time, competed for the playoffs pretty much throughout most of it, and they have a decent team this year that could maybe win a series. So I don't know why the Habs fans are so down on the team, especially with the prospects that we have, the team as it's built as it is right now. The way the cap is set up, there's going to be players leaving, opening up cap space so you can keep your younger players. It's that portion, that's that part of the team building. Bergevin actually did well. He's still missing pieces. Don't get me wrong. And he has fucked up quite a bit in the past. But the team is set up for success down the line. So, have a little bit of, sprinkle a little fairy dust on there, a little happy time. Have a smile there, Habs fans. You just beat the Leafs. They're the biggest juggernaut dynasty franchise ever created, and you won a game. So enjoy it.
It's because fans
he's got a respectable core on defense, even though they're aging. He's got a fairly young or in their prime, group of forwards. And then he's created literal waves of prospects that will just keep coming over and over. I mean, we're down to 10 or 11 picks or something in this upcoming draft. I mean, the amount of players we've drafted, wait till Yolonen replaces Byron, wait till Paling's up with us and Norlander and all of them. Like, it's just going to keep coming and coming and coming. Meanwhile, the core is still there.
And the team has been without a sniper, a game changer for several years. And we see what Caulfield's doing. This is a kid who can just score. You put the puck on his stick and magic happens. He hasn't gotten a regulations goal yet, but he's hit the post 5 times.
He's a volume shooter. It's gonna come. Look at Gallagher. Obviously, he doesn't play the same style as Gallagher, but Gallagher's a volume shooter. The puck's gonna go in the net eventually.
But this is a kid that could end a game or change the complexion of a game on a shot. And that's what the Canadiens have been missing. So there's that one.
That all doesn't matter. And I'll tell you why it doesn't matter, because fans hate Bergevin. They
and Jonathan Drouin.
Apparently, yeah.
But it's true, because you got to take Bergevin's tenure and you got to separate it. And I said this before, like, it's 2 separate GMs. His first 5 years, he was the bad GM. And why was he bad? Even though they were more successful, he was bad because he didn't build on the core he had. Right? He just let it go, put in plugs, and they didn't go anywhere except 2014. Then he was like, you know what? I got to do this from scratch. I got to start over again. I'm almost positive Molson said, well, we're not going to bare bones. You know what I mean? Like, no, we're not. I still want to be competitive. So he went about it the way he's doing it, the same way LA's rebuilding their team, the same way Chicago's rebuilding their team. They're keeping core players, Price, Weber, some older players. They're keeping them around, and they're building through that. So now you got to look at 2017 as the new GM, which is still Bergevin, but a new GM who took over the team and started from 2017 on. I think Bergevin's been spot on with what he's been doing.
Well, he finally got something that he was pre-2017 Bergevin didn't have: centers.
Yeah, but how did he get them? He got them exactly the way he said he was going to get them. He's going to draft them. Well, Suzuki, he traded for Suzuki, but
he had to give up Pacioretty, who, by the way, is one of the top goal scorers in the NHL right now.
Yeah, he's not as high as Toffoli, but.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I'd like that you brought up Molson for the first bit of Bergevin's tenure, because I think I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted, especially as, fairly new ownership, they wanted to turn the ship really quick. And they did have some younger, approaching their prime core pieces that it would have been like, okay, let's try to make this work with what we have. And they almost did. And I think the big thing was, I think it was around the Radulov season, and then what happened with Markov. They probably should have started the retool a little sooner than what they did. Yeah. That's my one complaint about that. But like you said, Treg, I'm all on board for what he's been doing since. And yeah, that's all I got.
And if he loses his job, the next GM is set. He's set. Yeah. He set this team up for the next GM perfectly. So. Yeah.
And down the and like you guys said, down the middle, that's key, because guys like Suzuki and Kotkaniemi are going to continue getting better. And when Suzuki is a bit of a hybrid, he can shoot and he can pass. Kotkaniemi seems a little bit more pass first, but when you pair these guys with Cole Caulfield, who, like you mentioned, and like we've all seen up to this point in his development, he can just rip shots from anywhere on the ice. He can deflect them in. He can, the goal he scored in overtime, and I understand it's 3-on-3, but the angle that puck went at, you would expect that puck to go opposite side, blocker on Campbell, as Caulfield's a right-hander. But he took it, and just the way that he can weight transfer on his legs and pick whichever leg he wants to fire off of is unbelievable. And it totally throws off the trajectory and the angle of where the puck's going. And it went opposite corner over the glove of Jack Campbell. It's just really impressive that he has the wherewithal to do that. And I have a feeling that, and I might have seen it or read it somewhere, that he's actually into the science of the game and how that works. And you're already seeing it in the way he shoots the puck.
Oh yeah, he practices how to shoot, different ways of shooting. He blindfolded. There was actually time he practiced in the summertime blindfolded. Puts the net where it's supposed to be and blindfolds himself and shoots from everywhere. So he does it on pure instinct. Like, this
He's a
kid's going to be
magician.
good. He's going to be good.
Yeah.
Well, he has 28 goals to go before the end of the season before I consider him a bust or not. I said he had to have 30.
Does he finish
He had to have
with
30
more
goals.
I think he does. It.
What?
Does he finish with more goals than Matthews? I think he does it.
He better. or what's the point of having him?
Yeah.
If he can score more than
he got
Nick
4
Robertson, then
games.
we've got ourselves an all-star in the making.
He has more game-winning goal. Actually, he has just as many overtime goals as Wayne Gretzky.
It's true. It's true. He's got 2 game-winning overtime goals
Overtime goals.
in the regular season.
And Wayne Gretzky only had, and it just blew my mind when I seen it today. He only had 2. Of course, then
Because
those Edmonton Oilers rarely ever went to overtime. So,
well, that and they didn't have overtime for quite a while during his career.
well, up until 83. Yeah.
Still.
So
Yeah.
what Trey's saying is Caulfield's going to be better than Gretzky. You heard it here first.
No, he's going to be as good as Gretzky.
But I mean, the kid is clutch. He's got 7 professional games in, and 4 of those games he has scored the game winner.
Yeah.
Only scores game winners.
I'll take
30 a
that.
game, 30 a year. So there's 30 wins. Bam.
That's 60 points.
There you go. All right. So the last point of today's show, the playoffs. So the Canadians are now tied in the 3rd spot with Winnipeg. If given the choice, would you rather face Edmonton or Toronto in the first round, and why? We're going to go with our guest, Matt.
I'm dying by the sword, man. Toronto Maple Leafs all day. I want to see that series. I think, hockey in general will be better for that series. I think it would be an absolutely entertaining, exciting, excruciating, stressful, amazing, week and a half or whatever it would amount to. But I want them. I think we're one of the only teams in the Canadian division that truly matches up well against the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think we match up well against anyone, to be honest. The Leafs being the tougher test of them all, but let's get it out of the way in the first round. Let's play spoiler. Let's absolutely fuck them over, piss off their fans, keep this slump going for the Toronto Maple Leafs, frustrate the hell out of them, and just punish them in round 1 of the playoffs. I mean, it would suck to lose and deal with their fans, but I'm not so sure it would go that way. I think over a 7-game series, facing this team over and over again, the physicality that guys like Josh Anderson can bring and our D-corps can bring as a whole, I think would really, really frustrate them. Not only the physical aspect from our defense, but the ability to shut the Stars down and make them get into their heads. Maybe, all you got to do is win a game or 2 and they've got a goalie controversy on their hands. Whereas as good as Jake Allen's been, Carey Price is our guy. I mean, that it is what it is. We know that. So yeah, definitely Toronto Maple Leafs to start.
Okay. Treg?
I think it's going to be Edmonton because I think they're going to get past Winnipeg. I think they could beat either or. I think they'll have an easier time with Edmonton, and I think I'm a bit biased about this because I don't want to deal with the Toronto fans if we lose. So I think only because I think Mike Smith, as good of a season he's having, I think he's going to be. I still think he's a question mark in goal. If you can contain Draisaitl and McDavid, you can beat the Oilers. That's basically their entire game right there. So yeah, I think they're going to play Edmonton in the first round. I think they're going to beat Edmonton. I think if they play Toronto in the first round, I totally agree with Matt. I think they're just going to lay the body on them and completely beat the shit out of them, and I think they'll win. And he's absolutely right. As soon as Campbell loses a game or 2, actually, I think they'll go with Anderson when he comes back healthy. And as soon as he loses a game or 2, they'll throw Campbell in there. And then if he loses, everyone's just going to be so confused on what to do and who to blame. And that's the way it'll go. But in reality, I think we're going to end up playing Edmonton. I think Winnipeg's going to end up getting Toronto.
All right. Hometown Matt, what do you think? Who would you want to face?
Personally, I'd like to see them face Edmonton in the first round. So far against the Oilers this season, The Oilers have scored the least goals of any opponent that they've played. Gotcha. And I have photo evidence. It's an exclusive photo evidence of how the centers and for the forwards need to play McDavid to shut him down, and it's exclusive. It's out there, but it's exclusive. So you just need to play him like that.
So that is
Right.
for those who are listening and not watching on YouTube, it's run into him at an airport and hold on to him in an awkward photo pose as he stares into the distance, wondering, what the fuck have I done with my life?
So you just need to do that, and you'll get him really frustrated, and he'll start throwing elbows at people. So we don't know what happened after that photo. Maybe he threw an elbow at one of those guys, one of the people in the photo. We don't know.
He did. He elbowed the old lady in the head.
So, but back to the point. I think the Canadians have proven that they can shut down players like McDavid and Drysdale. And I agree with Treg. I think that Smith's had a really good season. However, he's a guy that it's very easy to get in his head. And he lets in a couple soft ones. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. And for me personally, I want to see the Canadians play Edmonton in the first round. And it's not because I want to avoid Toronto. I think the Canadians can beat Edmonton. But for me, I want to see a Toronto-Montreal second round, because I do feel the Canadians can beat Toronto. All things considered, you guys covered pretty much the reasons why. But I want it in the second round because I want to see the memes that come out on Twitter and Instagram and everything for King of the North. I want to see all kinds of King of the North memes.
We the North.
All that shit. I want to see it all.
I hate that so much.
I totally want it co-opted by the Canadians so that when they do win, you put little crowns on everyone just to fuck with people. I think it'll be more fun because most of the people we interact with that are Leaf fans, between the four of us, we're friends with people who are Leaf fans. We interact with them. There's a little bit of a fun back and forth.
I live here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I grew up there. So you got that little circle that we chirp back and forth with. Those guys, it would be fun. The rest, all the other noise, you can mute that and ignore it altogether. But that little circle, I think, would be a lot more fun if they were in the second round. That's why I want to see Edmonton in the first round.
My one worry is that if we face them in the second round, I mean, I guess it could go both ways now that I'm thinking of it. But my one worry is that if they get past the first round, they're going to have so much momentum that there could be more chance that we drop that series to them. And then to lose it, and then they're the kings of the North after it and everything. But like I said, it could go both ways. I wonder if they, pardon my French, blow their load after the first round, and then they absolutely just shit the bed after that.
Well,
so I don't know.
Playing Winnipeg would
pardon my
heavy,
French,
heavy team.
but sacre bleu.
But Winnipeg's a very heavy team. They're very physical. They would be pounding the snot out of Toronto at every moment. So it's a game of attrition with the Jets. So if the Leafs do get past them, which technically they should, but if they do, they would be pretty beat up. They might have a couple of key injuries, all bumps and bruises, and the Canadians would probably have a lesser physical series playing against Edmonton. That would give them an advantage. So I think that evens things out a bit, and it would make for a much better series, in my opinion, if it were in the second round. And even if the Canadians lose, they still made the second round, and you can live on that. Meanwhile, Toronto's going to face off against against Tampa and get swept in 4. So,
well, and that's the thing I wanted to bring up if we got time here is, I truly believe the North Division is the weakest division in the NHL. I don't know if you guys agree with me. I think it's the weakest division in the NHL, and so once you get out of the North, I don't think anyone in the North is going to make it farther past the North. Really, like the North.
Honestly, I agree.
I don't care who we are, Montreal, Toronto, or whatever. And I guess this goes back to Toronto, but we talked earlier about the records, and do you think McDavid would be on 162 and 82? And I don't, and I only believe we are because there's some weak teams here. Like Matthews kicks the snot out of Montreal. He scores on almost every game he plays against Montreal. He kicks the snot out of Ottawa. They don't always win every game, but they score. And this is what I kind of hate about this. And then this season, because also you're going to get, when we do beat Toronto, you're going to get oh, you're just there because of COVID. So you wouldn't even be in the playoffs if it wasn't for COVID. But you can say that about any team, every team, because they only played their own division. Like, I could say, well, Toronto only had 71 points because of COVID, because they were playing Ottawa, us, and Winnipeg or Vancouver Canucks 10 times a year, right? So, like, it's just, and I don't know. I'm rambling now, but
no, I'm glad you say that, Treg, because the Toronto media kind of owns the stage. I know the Montreal media has the French aspect, but in terms of the the Anglo fans, the Toronto media, and even their fan base, it's bigger than ours somehow. They own the stage, and if the Leafs win and they are Canada's team, they'll be all hail the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, if the Habs happen to be Canada's team, because the Leafs media and Toronto media owns the stage, they're going to be saying exactly what you said, and they're going to try and do anything they can to discount it and say that no, Montreal only did it because of this. So I definitely think you're right.
Well, just look at last season in the bubble. They did exactly that. Yes, Montreal was brought in that 2014 play-in because they're a bigger market. There is no doubt about that. They stated it in their press release. But once you're there, you're there. You got to win your play-in. The Canadians won their play-in and made the playoffs. Meanwhile, Toronto shit the bed, missed the playoffs. Sorry, Leaf fans. That wasn't a playoff. That was a play-in. It's part of the postseason, but it wasn't the playoffs. So
and some fans bitched about that they won that series and they didn't get a top 10 pick.
whatever.
Look at how it helped Suzuki and Kotkaniemi's
and they still got a good pick out of it. They got Caden Gooley.
We had the tougher opponent too.
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what the press did. They played up that whole COVID thing, so you can be guaranteed they'll do it again.
Yeah, I mean,
already did it today.
The whole Leafs media and Toronto media, every single one of them picked the Penguins to absolutely demolish us. The Habs had no chance. So really, it was a Cinderella story. And then when the Habs pulled it off, it wasn't treated that way whatsoever.
No.
Well, no, TSN did it today. TSN's headline on their website was Montreal beats Toronto in overtime. Then they changed it to Montreal Habs steal game from Toronto in overtime. And if you can go on Twitter, someone has it side by side. It was like Habs defeat Toronto in overtime, then Habs stole game from Toronto in overtime.
Yeah.
So they made it sound a little bit better for Toronto, even though in the essence, both of them are the same goddamn thing. Like, they still lost in a conversation. And like you said, who cares if you lose? You have 71 points. You're like, you're going to win the division. So what? You played a good game. It just so happens
Campbell didn't make a save at the end of the last minute. So like Editor and Leaf would say,
you know what?
Let's ignore that last minute of hockey and the overtime, and the Leafs got the win.
It'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting playoffs, and you know what? I don't even care if Montreal makes it to the second round. I really don't. As long as they play good hockey in the first round, I'm happy with that, because they're not there yet. They're not a contender. They're not there yet. Let them get playoff experience. Anything after the first round's a bonus, in my opinion.
Let's give our guest the last couple of minutes here. What do you got?
One thing I will say, just to jump on what Treg said there, is, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and expect the Habs to go on a run, and I'm not going to say, oh yeah, they have a decent shot at the Cup. But at the same time, I don't think there was a lot of people who expected to see Dallas in the Cup final last year either. And I think the Montreal Canadiens have a decor that is built similarly to what the Dallas Stars decor looked like last year. We don't necessarily have our Heiskanen. We'd be asking for Jeff Petrie to, pull a lot of weight. Hopefully he can, but you never know, especially depending on what we get from Carey Price. And, you know, granted, it's not like he was consistent last regular season either. And then we saw what he did in the play-in. And he was not the reason why we ended up losing to Philly. So if we get that same Carey Price ready to step up and go on a run here, on top of the goal scoring that we have through and through of the lineup, you know, you hopefully get Gallagher back healthy. You know, you have Caulfield in there now to Foley doing what he's doing. And hopefully KK can kind of come around here. You never know, especially if they beat the Leafs and then, you know, see what happens from there, or Edmonton or whoever it is. But yeah, I'm happy with just making the playoffs this year. They earned it. And that's all I was asking for. They earned it, and they deserve to be in the position that they're in. I think every team would, and we've heard it, you know, all the players coming out and saying this is one of the most difficult seasons they've ever played. So to see the Habs, you know, face adversity multiple times throughout the season, have some slumps here and there, have the media and fans, you know, really going off on them, and still manage to, you know, stay consistent with their messaging and work hard every night. That's the one thing. This team really has never quit, and they've earned their spot in the playoffs. So I'm quite pleased with that.
Well, Matt, couldn't have said it better ourselves. And I want to say thank you for coming on the show. We are so happy to finally get you here. It's criminal that it's taken this long, but we're going to get you back on much sooner next time.
I cannot wait to be back. You guys are stellar people. And, you know, I've met yourself, Blaine, and Treg in person at Bubba's there, and would love to do that again. And I can't wait to cross paths with you, Matt, as well.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
sooner the better. We can have some beers. That'd be great.
As soon as this pandemic could fucking end, so we can go back to life.
Yeah. Thanks,
so,
guys.
just to give our listeners a quick shout, where can they find you?
Pretty much just on YouTube, and as I put my stuff up on Spotify as well, just for ease of listening. But the main spot is YouTube. I do game reactions. I got a Buzzed Up and Baked series as well. That's just kind of fun, and I'm hoping to have you guys on soon in person. I want to do it in person. Yeah. So there's that. But yeah, definitely look out for the game reactions and just discussion on my YouTube channel, Scotian Canadian, and on Twitter at Scotian Canadian.
Perfect. And Matt, again, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day, especially with a newborn. We know how hard that is. This is a great way to escape and quietly say, sorry, honey, I'm working. So we're doing you a favor. You're doing us a favor. It works out.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
And for our listeners, thanks for listening. And remember, if you were talking about it, so are we.